to go? All right, ready to go?
Yes, sir.
We'll now call the city council meeting of November 20, what's today?
22nd.
22nd. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm going to ask Captain Williams if he would lead us in the pledge.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, if you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Captain. Jennifer, will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Avila.
Here.
Councilmember Beaver. Councilmember Thorpe. Mayor Pro Tem Duncan.
Here.
Mayor Bogue.
Here. All right, so we do have three special presentations. I'm going to go ahead and start with the American Public Works Association, the APWA, and I believe this is, first one is with Bill Hemsley.
Yeah, I'd like to introduce the APWA chapter president, Bill Hemsley. And Fermin Preciado will also be participating in this one.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Honorable Council. It's a pleasure to be here tonight representing the American Public Works Association.
It's good to see you, Bill.
Thank you. So for nearly 85 years, the mission of APWA has been to promote professional excellence in public works awareness as well. One way that we do that is by recognizing public works projects with our Project of the Year award program. Each year, we solicit submittals from local agencies. We evaluate the projects based on the service to the community, environmental enhancement, sustainability, unique design and planning, cost effectiveness, improvements of public safety, and aesthetics. I'm pleased to inform you that one of your city projects received recognition this year. Your city public works employee Landon made a presentation at our luncheon in November, and some excerpts of that luncheon we were going to, actually we're not going to show those. In our, our local program, local roadway project of the year award was presented, it will be presented to you tonight. And this is a plaque that was made by one of our members. So go ahead and give that to Fermin. So the Yucaipa Boulevard project is an $11 million project that was awarded because of the safety enhancements that were made to the 50,000 travelers that use it each day. About that, is that right, Fermin? About 50,000 ADT? And so some of the things that stood out to us is because of the third lane that provides safety enhancements so people can turn into the new businesses that have been attracted to our beautiful city. You can tell I live here. And the median prevents people from making left turns into the businesses and the fatal accidents that occur from that movement that's now been restricted in this part. And then other things that have greatly improved this area with that project are the undergrounding of the utility lines, and then the drainage that used to be a problem there every year. And so it is, again, with my great pleasure that we make this award to the city. And I'd like to give special commendation to your staff members like Fermin, like Shane and Landon, and the team who have invested much of themselves for these projects and projects like it. So I'm happy to officially present this award to you today. Thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you, Bill. Before we come down, there is one more presentation from San Bernardino County Supervisor Don Rao.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to echo Bill's sentiments. It is a wonderful project. It is an honor to be here tonight to present this on behalf of the 3rd District in the County of San Bernardino. When we think public works, we just think sometimes transportation, but it is, as Bill said, it is public safety. It's access for our residents to get in and out of our businesses. It's pedestrian traffic, and it's even flood control in many of our communities. So congratulations to you and the entire team on a job well done. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. And we're going to have our picture taken, if you would. All right, so our next presentation will be from the Yucaipa BMX.
Tim Hansen, I think, will be presenting that.
Thank you. Mayor Bogue, council members, thank you for having us tonight. We are the track operators for Yucaipa BMX. We're here tonight to present the city council and the city of Yucaipa as a whole with our top 10 track award in the West. Last year, there were 109 tracks in the West and we were ranked 6th. This award was given to us from our sanctioning body, USA BMX, for all of our hard work. The track has now been open just over 5 years, and our first race was in August. So we're on our 6th year now, 2007. We just wanted to say thanks for our partnership with the city. Thank you to the council and all the city employees. And we also do a special race as part of our weekly racing. Megan's got part of our video. Last year we had the gold medalist from the 2016 Olympics. He came out and was part of our race. So you guys like to show that? So this race in particular is a special race we do, which is called Pump Race. That particular race, the chains could not be on the bikes. So all that momentum that they've got is all body language and everything. As part of that, we do a special race for 2 groups of our racers. One is 13 and under. The second group is 14 and over. And at the end of the year, we present the winner with these belts. So we'd like to present the city council with the award and show the belts to you guys. There were 100, well, I'll give you some statistics. Sorry. There are 17 tracks in Southern California. Of those 17 tracks, we were ranked second. There are 109 tracks in the West. We were ranked 6th. Nationally, there's 309 tracks. We were ranked 17th overall. This year, we were ranked 2nd again. And nationally, of the 300, in 2021, there are 316 tracks. Of those, we are ranked 13th.
And I know there are board members here from the BMX. You guys want to come on up? No, you gotta come on up.
We used to get from me and Ray.
Someone can do it.
And Wendy's not here, Montgomery.
Anyone else involved in BMX?
We race, but. We have the highest rider count in Southern California. Rider count in Southern California. So it just shows how much we needed the track here.
You good?
Yep.
1, 2, 3.
All right.
So they know they're keeping this?
Oh, we have an employee introduction, don't we?
This is yours.
Oh, awesome. I'm gonna leave it.
All right.
We do have an employee introduction.
It's Ben Matlock making that introduction today.
All right, good evening, city council members. It's my pleasure to introduce Leander Rodriguez to the city's team, specifically as a code enforcement officer. Leander actually comes to the code enforcement division following experience serving as a park ranger for the city of Yucaipa. And he essentially had been working with our code enforcement staff for a number of years and providing support. And this was a opportunity that was provided, and we are very glad to have him part of the planning and code enforcement team. Prior to working at the city of Yucaipa as a park ranger, he actually worked for the county of San Bernardino as a park ranger as well. And he holds a bachelor's degree in business administration from Cal State San Bernardino. I would say he's been able to, I think from his experience as park ranger working with staff, has been able to jump in and provide more support with our department and really help augment it, and his efforts have been well received. I would say one of the things that has stood out to me, or at least a recognition from community members, is our Vector Control Committee has noted their appreciation for the work he's done. Essentially, if you haven't noticed any flies this year, a lot of it is through his efforts and keeping a steady hand with those efforts, and certainly that approach to customer service and working on the code cases transcends through other properties as well, and really trying to provide a steady and helpful guiding hand for property owners that are in code enforcement. And so with that, really excited to have him. Interests include watching sports. He notes he's a Dodgers and Chargers fan, snowboarding, and he also plays the drums like I do, and it's always fun to have another drummer in City Hall. So with that, happy to have him as part of our team. So.
Just really quick, I just wanted to say thank you to Ben and the rest of the Code Enforcement Division for giving me the opportunity to work as code officer for the city of Yucaipa and for being welcoming and helpful. Working with Ben, Kelly, Pamela, and Maria has been invaluable to me because they're really good at what they do. And it's been a real privilege to be able to learn and subsequently better myself from them. Lastly, I want to say that for me, code enforcement is so much more than just issuing citations for code violations. It's an opportunity to positively impact our citizens by doing our part in keeping the community safe, healthy, and to keep the highest quality of life possible for them. It's an opportunity that I embrace and I will give my best to, and I will never take it for granted. So thank you.
Oh, no, I can take it up. You sure you don't want to be positive?
Just really quick, I want to thank Mr. Hemsley and Supervisor Rao for coming and presenting those awards. That means a lot. Thanks to the BMX folks. You know, Yucaipa is a very sports town. You guys know that. We're kind of considered a baseball town, softball town, but I also think we're considered a mountain bike, kind of bicycle town also. Good to hear. All right, so that's going to take us to public comment. I had two speakers here. Our first speaker will be Richard Frost. And for the record, we are limited to 3 minutes. If you could come up and state your name and where you're from.
Richard Frost, 12731 3rd Street, Yucaipa. I was talking to this lady, she's at the northwest corner of 3rd and E up by the traffic circle. And her dog's kind of, you know, she has a 5-foot fence, and she says that's the highest the city will allow her to put up a fence. And her dogs are, you know, can almost get out. A long time ago, she had a dog stolen with a lower fence. But the house across the street has this big wall, or maybe that was just grandfathered in or something like that. But she was wondering why the city won't allow her to have a 6-foot fence. And I told her she should call the city, but I was just curious.
Well, we could ask the code enforcement for those. Thanks, Richard. Cecilia Johns.
Cecilia Johns, 33175 Colorado Street in Yucaipa. I had a very interesting experience this morning. It bothered me all day, and I thought I'd run it by you and see what you think. I missed a toy drive the other day, so I thought, well, no problem. I go to station number 2 and drop them off. And I drove up 13th Street like I have a million times. I'm the cake lady after all. And I drove in the driveway, and I only got a little ways, and there was cones across the driveway. And somebody said, oh, you have to back up and you can't get through there. That's interesting. So I didn't. That wasn't very easy to turn around because they had parking spaces marked where there weren't any before. And I turned on the boulevard. I said, oh, it's no problem. I go in the front. Except that driveway was blocked off with cones. And the only parking space, handicapped, there was a car there. And the big doors were closed. I said, well, maybe there's a little driveway at the end of the building. No, and it wasn't a good place to park in the street. So I went to the next slide, I turned around, I went up to the next slide and turned around again and said, I'm just gonna squeeze into that driveway and quickly unload my stuff and before somebody gives me a ticket. Then the handicap backed out, so I waited. And I pulled in the handicap spot and the guys came out. I said, boy, it's sure hard to get to you these days. How come? Well, we lost the driveway. I said, what do you mean you lost a driveway? How can you lose a driveway? Well, we no longer own that. And they were very apologetic and they wouldn't say anything bad about anybody, of course. I was the one that was cussing. And I said, how do you get in here when you come back from a job? He said, well, we drive in and make sure that nobody's in our way. And then somebody gets out and moves the cones and we drive down and somebody has to come up and put the cones back up.
You could finish your thought.
Thank you. And I said, what about the other driveway? Well, the coffee customers drive in there and then they drive back there to our personal parking lot and they block everything, so we have to keep everybody out there. I said, that's ridiculous. Does the city know about that? He said, well, it's difficult, is it? It's difficult. It's a problem. So,
Okay, well, we can definitely look into that.
I would appreciate it.
I can have, including Richard Frost, we could have someone contact you and go over that with you.
I mean, they're our first responders, and they can't respond in an emergency. They have to first move cones and stuff before they even get out of there and when they come back to get back in.
Okay.
That's ridiculous.
We will
Thank you.
definitely look into that. Thank you. All right, so before we move on to the consent agenda, Ray, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Staff would respectfully request, first of all, just a reminder that with 3 council members, there are a number of items on the agenda that would require a unanimous vote, any contracts or resolutions or ordinances, payments. And so those would all require a unanimous vote this evening. As council is aware, we have 2 council members that couldn't make it this evening. And those council members also happen to be the chair and vice chair of the successor agency and the chair and the vice chair of the housing authority in reverse. The same 2 council members act in those capacities. And so staff would respectfully request that council select an interim chair for successor agency this evening, interim chair for housing authority this evening, and perhaps combine the items and continue the items until December 13th so that those 2 can participate in those actions. And then just a reminder that we have passed out revisions to item number 13, agreement, and they're available in the back of the room as well. So those are staff's recommendations this evening, starting with a vote to change the agenda and also perhaps name the successor agency interim chair and the housing authority interim chair and combine those items as I mentioned earlier.
Okay, so let's,
Shall we also include item number 9 on that as well, to move that to the same meeting that we're going to,
we can do that when we get to that
Okay,
point, if you
okay.
like. So does anyone want to be the temporary chair of the Housing and Successor Agency?
I'll do one.
You guys can do them, but just you'll need one for both.
Yeah, I'll do it.
You'll do
Unless
it?
you want to do it, since you already have the,
You do it.
It's for one item, so we'll be fine. All right, and then you guys are okay with changing of the agenda? Do we need a vote on that, Ray?
Yes, please.
So is there-
And just for the record, you'll have to, just in case there's anybody that wants to comment on either item, you'll have to make sure you give them the opportunity to speak either on the Housing Authority or the successor agency item, but having a single chair for both is certainly appropriate.
So is there a motion to change the agenda?
Absolutely. I'll make a motion that we change the agenda. And as I understand it, the change is going to be, we're going to have one of us, or we're going to have David Avila be the assistant chair in the absence of the chair. Is that correct?
I would characterize it as the interim chair for the
Interim chair,
evening.
okay, I'm sorry, interim chair. Okay, I make a motion we do that as well, so.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so that's going to take us to our consent agenda, which are items 1 through 8. Are there any items one wishes to remove for discussion?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so that's going to take us to mayor and council business reports. Is there anything anyone would like to talk about?
I don't have anything.
David, you have anything?
Last Thursday, the city manager and I attended the Cal Cities installation and banquet, just an annual review. I think the only significant thing that was going to come out of it would be City Manager Ray Casey's presentation on the ACA, but he never had an opportunity to do that. So everything else is just pretty mundane, nothing special to report in my opinion.
Okay. Nothing. All right, so that's going to take us to item number 9, and this will be for Jennifer.
I think we should move that to the next meeting, since we are in the absence of 2 of our colleagues.
I agree.
I agree also. I think it'd be ethically more correct to have all 5 members present before we make that decision.
So because it's required to be this week, is it going to require a vote that we move it to December 13th?
Yes, what I'd suggest is that the council, someone make a motion to waive the rule that requires the appointment or election of the mayor and mayor pro tem at this meeting. Just waive that rule and continue the matter to the first meeting in December for that decision.
I'll make that motion in view of the lack of the 5 members here. And I'd like to move that we would bring this forward again when we have all 5 members present in the event that there may be someone absent. We don't know the status of all of our absent council members. So next meeting may not even be appropriate.
I might recommend that we continue it specifically to that item, that the rules contemplate that in an election year, that's the meeting at which the appointment or election of the mayor and mayor pro tem would occur. If we have a issue with attendance at that, we can, at that meeting, we can revisit
Continue
the issue
again.
at that time.
Okay.
So are you okay with the motion that was made?
Move to the next meeting due to
Suspend the rules,
extraordinary
right?
circumstances.
Waive the rule with respect to conducting the election at this meeting and continuing the matter until the first meeting in December.
You said it so well, thank you.
Is that a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so Ray, is there possible action on pending legislation?
Yes, we have an item on the agenda this evening pursuant to council direction from the last meeting. That item really has two actions. The first action is to review and approve a letter of support for California Assembly Constitutional Amendment 7, ACA 7, which would allow for, if approved by both the House and the Senate, by a 2/3 vote, would allow for that legislation or that amendment to move to an initiative, be on the ballot in November. The second item is a review and approval resolution, 2021-74 for the brand Huang Mendoza Tripartisan Land Use Initiative, Initiative 21-0016A1, to amend Section 7 of the Article 11 of the California Constitution as well. The difference between the two, the first one requires legislative action on a 2/3 vote. The second is a ballot initiative where it's being brought forward through the petition process. If there's enough petitions gathered, qualified petitions gathered, or signatures gathered pursuant to the petition, then that would also, could also be on the November ballot as well. And so unfortunately, the working group that I was a part of voted to, not by unanimous vote, of course, but voted to forward these items to the board, Cal City's board, without a recommendation. The context of the conversation was, although everybody on the calls supported local control, some felt that there were issues relative to either the initiative or the ACA 7 language that needed to be overcome. So that was the recommendation to the board. Had a long chat with Cal City staff, said that I was still being asked to put this item before council, and they understood that council may, our council may still recommend both the letter for ACA 7 and or the initiative resolution. So what you have before you is those two actions. Let me read the differences between the two. The language is very similar, except for three differences that are in the initiative that are not in the ACA 7. And just for the record, the differences include ensuring all decisions regarding local land use controls, including zoning law and regulations, are made by the affected communities in accordance with applicable law, including but not limited to California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, California Fair Employment and Housing Act, the Prohibition Against Discrimination, and affirmatively furthering housing. So that's one that is in the initiative but not in the ACA 7. The second is the initiative prohibits modification to appropriations for state-funded programs, and no state grant applications or funding shall be denied as a result of the application of this constitutional amendment. No benefit or preference in state appropriations or grants shall be given to an entity that opts not to utilize these provisions. So the idea there is the state can't penalize cities that use this provision if it's passed in the initiative process, or sweeten the pot for others. And finally, the initiative prohibits a city or county from superseding or otherwise interfering with any voter-approved local initiative pertaining to land use or zoning restrictions. So if a local initiative passes, that would supersede the rest of this, either the local land use ordinance setup or even state law if it's used under ACA 7 or the initiative. And so the bottom line is these are both very similar. They're both efforts to bring back some local control. SB 9, SB 10 were referenced as two horrible state laws that had passed. Certainly staff would agree with that. This would allow local ordinances to supersede state law, whether it's SB 9, SB 10, or many of the other housing bills that have passed in the last couple of years, other than those exceptions that are provided in the initiative 21-0016. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions for staff?
I do. So I'm not sure I understand either one of these, to be perfectly honest with you. And so the first one here, this ACA 7, this is an initiative to sign a letter of disapproval saying that we don't approve of it. But if this bill came out of the Assembly, the California Assembly, and it takes a 2/3 vote, and the governor's already signed SB 9, there's no way this is gonna work. Right? I
Is that
mean,
a question? Yeah, I think it's very unlikely that either the House or the Senate, given the majority, is going to support this. I agree with you.
And so then the second one is pretty much the same thing, right? I mean,
The second one has all the same language except for those 3 additions that I talked about.
so what happened to the one that I had introduced? Because that was they were gathering, the mayor of Carson and the mayor of Loma Linda was gathering signatures to get on the ballot to have a constitutional amendment to keep local control at the city level or at the local level. What happened to that? Anything?
Absolutely. That is the second one. That is the initiative -1621.
Oh, it is. Okay, I'm sorry. I had a different name on my notes. So, okay.
That's the group that is proposing or promoting it, yes.
I got you. Okay, good.
I think it's wise actually to put up both because it shows the legislator if they're not going to listen to the local control, then we're just going to have to turn it over with voters. So anyways, is there a motion to accept items 1 and 2?
I make a motion that we support both of these initiatives.
I second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so that takes us to department reports, and then item number 11, I believe this is for me.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and council members. This item is regarding the award of contract for professional services for the implementation of the sensitive plant species mitigation plan for the Wilson 3 Basin project. Over the last year, council has considered several agenda items related to the Wilson 3 Basin project and the Oakland Creek specific plan. Last month, council accepted the contract work that was completed by JMI Construction for the Phase 1A portion of the Wilson 3 Basin project. That work included the mass grading for the project. On September 27th, council awarded a construction contract for Phase 1B, for the Phase 1B work to LB3 Enterprises. That contract includes the channel improvements, some storm drain work, and erosion control measures within the project site. The environmental impact report that was prepared for the Oakland Creek specific plan, it did require a sensitive plant species mitigation plan to be prepared. That plan was to review the impacts of the mass grading and the overall project on the native habitat within the project site. The plan was prepared by the city's consultant, and it did require a mitigation for the loss of a flowering plant called the Perry spine flower. That plant is native to the area. On the screen, you'll see there's a couple photos on the left side of that particular plant. The mitigation effort that was identified in that plan, it included collecting the top 2 to 3 inches of topsoil within the project site, the topsoil that was to be collected was going to be in areas that was identified as containing that plant. Once that material was collected, it would be stockpiled within the project site for future placement in various areas within the project site. Those areas are identified on the screen as receptor sites 1 and 2. The topsoil material was placed within receptor site 1 as part of the Phase 1A work that was completed earlier this year. Placing the material at receptor site 2 was not possible during the Phase 1A work due to limited access and also the construction activities that were occurring within receptor site 2. Access to that site is now available, and staff is recommending moving forward with that work. This work includes the placement of about 286 cubic yards of the spine flower topsoil within the 0.7 acre site. A 5-year management plan is also required. That plan includes monitoring the 2 receptor areas for the success of that spine flower plant. The monitoring will be completed by the Inland Empire Resource Conservation District. DUDEC, the proposed consultant, and their subconsultants, they have been providing environmental review services to the city for this and other projects. They have also completed similar habitat restoration work in the past, not just for the city of Yucaipa, but for other agencies. Staff does feel that DUDEC is qualified to do the work, and based on their knowledge of this project and also the mitigation plan that was prepared, requesting proposals from other firms would not be cost effective, so staff is recommending that City Council find that the public interest will not be best served by a formal proposal process, waive the formal solicitation of proposals, and award the contract to DUDEC. The fiscal table on page 132 of the agenda identifies the available funding sources for the project, and that funding is identified in the adopted fiscal year 21-22 capital improvement program. That funding is shown on the screen before you. The next table includes the current revenues and also planned expenditures for the project, including the proposed contract and the other costs associated with that contract in the amount of $84,225. I do just want to briefly go over the overall cost estimate for the project. The cost estimate in 2015 for the overall project, for the Wilson 3 Basin project, was $15 million. In 2017, with the completion of the preliminary design, that estimate was revised to $16 million. And now in 2021, the current cost estimate to complete the entire Wilson 3 Basin project is $18.5 million. This is a 15% increase, and it's a result of the increase in construction costs over the last 4 years. For example, the compounded change in the construction cost index over the last 4 years is over 16%. And as referenced in the agenda report, the increase in construction materials alone over the last 4 years is gone up over 20%, and that is only for the cost of construction materials. It is also important to note that no general fund monies are allocated to this project, and staff will continue to pursue additional grant funding opportunities along with other partnerships to complete the remaining phases of this project. And with that, staff recommends that City Council approve staff's recommendations as listed in the agenda report for this item, recommendations 1 through 4. That concludes my report, and staff is available for questions.
So are there any questions for staff?
That photograph of that species, that must have been taken long before the grading started, huh? Because that whole site's been graded right down to where it needs to be, right?
Yes, those photographs were part of the mitigation plan that was prepared prior to the work starting.
So this plan is about moving that material that we've already exported back into the basin? Is that what I'm understanding?
Only the material that contained the topsoil material that contained the seeds for the spine flower, and that's being stockpiled, and that will be placed only within the red areas on the screen.
And those areas are outside the basin. It was set aside before we started the heavy grading. The topsoil was scraped and set aside to be placed in those locations in the future.
And then we're paying for the plan that we're submitting to get that approval, or for the actual material? Is this for the contractor to understand what he's doing?
This is a contract for the material to be moved and to be placed. The plan has already been completed.
The plan. David, do you have anything?
No, I'm good to go.
I move approval.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so this takes us to the Autumn Fest wrap-up, number 12, and this is Mary.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I am here this evening to present a wrap-up report for the 2021 Autumn Fest. Autumn Fest was held on October 8th and 9th, and we would like to thank all of the organizations who make up the Autumn Fest committee and help make this event possible. They include the Past Pleasures Car Club, who gathered and managed cars for the Unforgettable Car Show and Show and Go, and we had about 75 to 100 cars show up this year. The Knights of Columbus, who host our beer and wine garden. The Rotary Club of Yucaipa, who sponsored and judged our kids costume contest, in which we've had the most kids that we've ever had for our kids costume contest at Autumn Fest, with about 60 participants. The Yucaipa Animal Placement Society for donating prizes to our dog costume contest, which also had the most participants we've ever had, and we had about 20 participants there. The Yucaipa Chamber of Commerce, who managed the food and merchandise vendors. In total, we had 11 food vendors and 44 merchandise vendors. Christ the Redeemer Church, who assisted us with trash pickup and overall cleanliness of the festival. And finally, the Yucaipa News Mirror, who supported us in advertising the festival. The live entertainment, kids zone, and haunted house activities were operated and managed by city staff with the help of volunteers from the Youth Advisory Committee and the YHS Key Club. Although we wish we would have had a larger attendance at Autumn Fest this year, several of our food vendors actually sold out of food on both of the nights, and merchandise vendors were very happy with the turnout. We even exceeded our projected revenues in the kids zone by $1,942 and the haunted house by $5,675. Our fiscal year 2021-2022 Autumn Fest budget projected revenues were projected at $15,500 and expenditures in the amount of $44,958. On page 197 of your packet is attachment A, which breaks down our actual revenues from the event, which totaled $19,870, and actual expenditures, which totaled $39,834. This concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
So are there any questions for staff? Comments?
No, I think we did very well considering we had lower attendance than usual. We exceeded expectations.
Well, it was a fantastic event. Friday was a little disappointing as far as the attendance, but Saturday was right on. And you guys did a fantastic job, and it only cost the city $9,493 to put that great event on. So I'm looking forward to the skating rink.
Thank you.
All right. Well, this is just a receive and file, so thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
All right, so moving to item 13.
Well, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Speaking of great events, I'd like to talk about great partnerships and committees. This evening, the item before you is the wrap-up from the 2021 rodeo and the approval of the 2022 rodeo. In 2018, City Council approved a facility use agreement between the city and the Yucaipa Equestrian Arena Committee. The agreement defined the committee's responsibility to pay $100,000 to the city to offset the cost of the Dottie Potter Arena cover, which cost $1,087,000. In 2020, City Council approved an amendment to the agreement to include lights at the arena. This agreement amendment recognized that all net proceeds from the 2020 and 2021 rodeo would be paid back to the city. Unfortunately, the 2020 rodeo did not take place, and the 2021 rodeo did take place, and it was amazing. It was held on Friday, August 6th and Saturday, August 7th, and received outstanding reviews. I think we can all agree that the rodeo was a success. The Rodeo Committee and members of the Yucaipa Equestrian Arena Committee Board met with city staff on November 3rd, and they estimated the revenues from the rodeo to be in the amount of $40,000. YEAC would like to honor their agreement to the city. However, with the rodeo in 2020 canceling, there was a loss of revenue for the committee, and they need to make additional improvements to the arena and invest money in the 2022 rodeo. Therefore, the committee is asking City Council to choose between 3 options. Option 1 would be to accept $40,000 of the net proceeds from the 2021 rodeo and amend the agreement to include the following language. The net proceeds from the 2022 rodeo, less startup costs for insuring a rodeo, will be paid to the city to offset the costs of the purchase and installation of lighting. Option 2, accept no money from the 2021 rodeo and amend the current agreement to include the net proceeds from the 2022 and 2023 rodeo, less startup costs for insuring the rodeo, will be paid to the city to offset costs for the purchase and installation of lighting. And option number 3, YEAC will pay off the balance of the Dottie Potter Arena cover in the amount of $25,000 and make an amendment to the facility use agreement to read the net proceeds from the 2022 and 2023 rodeo, less startup costs for insuring the rodeo, will be paid to the city to offset the costs for the purchase and installation of lighting. That concludes the wrap-up for the 2021 rodeo. City staff also met to discuss the 2022 rodeo, and the 2022 rodeo special event permit application was received and is attached to the staff report. They are proposing a 2-day event on April 1st, 2022 from 4 to 10 p.m. and April 2nd from 2 to 10 p.m. The event will include a rodeo, beer garden, food and merchandise vendors, and the rodeo will be operated by Alex Hauser. There was an amendment to the agreement and it was passed out this evening. And the price for Alex's services are $57,695. To accommodate the large number of possible attendees, the Rodeo Planning Committee is requesting the use of the city-owned vacant lot across the street from the facility. And similar to the 2021 event, engineering staff will prepare and approve a temporary traffic control plan, which will include a temporary 4-way stop at the intersection at California Street and Avenue G, if approved by City Council. In addition, the committee is also requesting the city allow overnight camping at the facility. Pursuant to Yucaipa Municipal Code Section 1206.030, subsection A and D, it is unlawful for overnight camping in public places. Therefore, council would have to approve the amendment to that municipal code. Staff will also assist with marketing and promotion for the event, and flyers will be available at all city facilities. The committee has also requested the use of tables and chairs, generators, electrical boxes, signage, and trash cans, as well as police, public works, fire, and other personnel services. Similar to years past, the committee cannot contract directly with Alex Hauser due to insurance limitations. Therefore, the city will enter into an agreement with Alex Hauser for rodeo services, and YEAC will provide upfront funding to the city pursuant to the agreement. Staff asks that City Council approve the recommendations listed in the council report, number 1 through number 11, and providing direction on number 2. That concludes my report, and I can answer any questions that you may have at this time.
So are there any questions for staff? David, do
No, no,
you have anything?
I understand it.
Just for the,
Are we going to get some comments from the Equestrian Center staff or committee about which one of these they would prefer? Or I've already spoken to J.R. Allgauer, he's out of town, but are they going to make a recommendation or?
The president and I believe other members of the committee are here, and if they'd like to come down, they can speak to the item.
Well, good thing is that we'll have to limit you to three minutes there. All right?
My name is Jim Butler, and I'm the president of the Yucaipa Equestrian Center Committee. And those were all three great options, but basically, we would like to honor the deal that we made with Ray and do the 40. We do have some extra costs coming up for this next rodeo. We expect to be able to give the city more than we could this year, but that's our expectations. And we've entered into 2 rodeos, and then we still have a roof payment. And so that would
for
be
clarification,
that would be our first. And you know, we tried to pay the roof off once before, and we ended up using the money to move the corrals around to the middle. So I wish Ray would have talked me out of that one, but anyway, it's almost done now. So.
So are you okay with option, is it option C
We don't
or
want
3?
option B, no.
No option B? but
No
you're-
option B, and we prefer to just go with option A, and you guys already have the check for the 40. And then we'll go at this next one, and we'll see where we go from there.
You sure it's not option 3?
Option 3 is the roof. We didn't know option 3 was on there, so I only have, from my committee, I only have the blessing of of option A. Or I'd have to go back to.
Option 1, so you want to pay the 40,000?
We would like to just pay the 40 and go to this next rodeo.
And option 2, accept no money and amend the current agreement to include the 22 and 23, so you use 21's money to make your improvements. You don't want that option.
No, we don't want that. Well, we talked about that early on when when we did our first budget, what we figured we were gonna make, we were down there pretty low, and we didn't want to be embarrassed coming to you guys, so we ended up going past our budget, or making our budget, but we still went over on a few things. And
Right.
so we feel we did okay. We're set up we're gonna put new footing in the arena, and we'll just go from there.
All right, so the recommendation by the equestrian group is then option 1?
Yeah. Okay.
All right, thank you very
I move we
much.
accept option 1.
Thank you very much.
Okay, well, okay.
So with that, is there any more questions or discussions or motions?
I move to accept or utilize option 1, accept the $40,000 in net proceeds from the 2021 rodeo.
What about all the other, there's 1 through 11? Is that are those included in your motion?
Yes.
Okay. So items 1 through 11, and then item 2, it's 2A. Is there a second?
Yeah, I've got a second on that, absolutely.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further
As amended, but there was an amendment that was
With-
passed.
With the.
Do you want me to read the option 1?
Contract,
Just not in terms of the agreement amendment that was passed,
There's also
just
an
as
amendment,
amended is all you have to add.
Oh, yes, and then recognizing that there is an amendment in the documentation.
And you're good with that?
that's part of my second, yes.
All right, so any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I'd like to add that, or just say that you guys did a fantastic job. It was an amazing event, and it was Justin's idea to go 2 each year, and I think that was great. I'm amazed at how many cowboys there are in Yucaipa. Blows my mind.
All right, so with that, we're going to move on to item number 14, and I believe this is Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'll be brief. As staff, or as council is aware, staff was directed to come back to council on this item with an update and potential for not continuing the local emergency relative to the pandemic. So what we have learned since the last council meeting is, number one, that the folks on Wildwood Canyon are at least having conversations with staff about moving ahead with their CUP application, but have not submitted any new information other than the commitment to use city's consultant for traffic engineering. I think they had trouble finding someone else to do that. And then second, Sherry O'Connell with my office reached out to County OES relative to the question about potential funding or loss of funding by not having the declaration. And County OES has been reaching out to California OES to ask the feds, federal government, to what extent there is risk associated with that. They haven't received an answer yet from the feds through Cal OES. So the supervisor at County OAS is recommending that the city continue declaration. Other cities in the area have continued their declaration. So that is an update from our last meeting relative to this declaration. So staff is recommending that the council review the need to continue the local emergency, thereby recognizing the continued existence of perilous conditions as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and direct staff as deemed appropriate. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, are there any questions or comments for staff?
No, I believe that we should just go ahead and continue it. I'd rather err on the side of caution and until we get something more definitive from state and federal advisors.
I agree.
Yeah, but how long are we going to do this? I mean, I absolutely am tired of this crap. I'm ready for it to be over. And obviously, I don't want to jeopardize the city's resources by saying we can't get grants or get money, but it's like, this is just ridiculous. We just keep going on and on and on. And I don't want to continue it.
The COVID-19 is just what we're looking at is all of the other things with this, not just the COVID-19 stuff. So, yeah, again, we should just consider erring on the side of caution, and until we get better direction or more definitive direction from above.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm kind of tired of the whole thing also, but considering the circumstances, we do need to continue. So, with that, is there a motion to?
I'll move to continue for another 30 days. Is that how long it is, Ray? It's every 30 days?
Actually,
or every 14 days.
Every meeting, basically, unless you suspend that or for a period of time you had authorized every 30 days, every other meeting. But we've gone back to every meeting, as you know. So we'll come back to you in 14 days and give you updated information. Next meeting. Next meeting, thank you. One thought could perhaps is the council could direct staff to send a letter to County OES to make that request. Maybe that gives them a little more in terms of the funding issues. Maybe that gives them a little more information to pass on through Cal OES to the feds.
And perhaps I could give, if she would like, our county supervisor, would you like to give us a little input on what the county is doing at this time?
Should have gone
Not to put you on the spot here, but you're there.
But since you're here.
Yeah.
We at the county are also continuing the emergency declaration. It allows us the ability to still seek federal reimbursement and to have the ability to have those funds available to us. And then the other thing it allows for is some higher purchasing levels for equipment if we should need it, if we go back into a situation where we have a lockdown necessary or emergency medical needs. So at this time, I know that the County Board of Supervisors is still wanting, as you say, Councilmember Duncan, to wrap this up and be over with it. But we're just a little hesitant at this moment to do that. So month by month, we continue to continue it for at least another 30 days. And so I think we're close, but we're not quite there yet. So I would defer to County OES on that and ask the question of that, but at this point, I would advise you to err on the side of caution, as Councilmember Avila stated, and just to continue it perhaps for another month. So,
All right, thank you.
I've only got 3 more years on this council. I don't want to be dealing with this 3 years from now. That's all I'm saying is that when's it going to be over? When's it going to stop?
I agree and understand.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, David, did you have a motion? Did you make a motion already?
Yes, continue for another 14 days and to write a letter to County OES.
To the next meeting, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, to the next meeting and write a letter to County OES for input and/or direction.
On reimbursement options, reimbursement potential.
On reimbursement potentials.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so I am going to temporarily adjourn the city council meeting.
And I will, as the interim chairman of the successor agency, I will open up the meeting. And the first one, subject is approve the successor agency minutes of January 11th, 2021. And then also, as the interim housing authority, I'd like to open up that one too. Can I do that at the same time?
So you may want to open the successor agency items in their entirety, and make sure there's no one here that wants to speak on those items, and then vote to continue those items to the next meeting, and then adjourn the successor agency, open the housing authority, and ask the same thing. There may be somebody that wants to speak on the housing authority, but not the successor agency. Probably
Okay.
not, but there may be.
I'd like to open up all the subjects on the successor agency, including approve a successor agency minutes of January 11th and recognize obligation payment schedule 21-22 as amended. Move to
I think the motion would just be to continue items
continue.
SC 1, 2, and 3 to the meeting of December 13th, 2021.
Are there any
I-
comments or questions regarding any of the items?
Well, I'll make a motion that we move items 1, 2, and 3 to the first meeting in December.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. No further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? It's moved. And now we open up the successor agencies. The housing authority.
Adjourn the successor agency?
I'm
maybe?
sorry,
Yeah.
adjourn the successor agency. We'll open up the housing authority. And we have, how many subjects do we have here?
2.
2 subjects, 2 items on the agenda. I'd like to open them up for discussion. Questions?
I will move that we delay items 1 and 2 till December 13th.
We have a motion to move it to December 13th. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right, no further discussion. Please vote. All those in favor? I'm sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That carries. And I'll go ahead and close the successor agency and housing authority and return it back to city council.
All right, so I will reopen the city council meeting, and that's going to take us into a study session, which is item number 15. And it looks like it's Landon.
Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. Thank you. I'm happy to kick off our project update presentation tonight for the Wildwood Canyon Road I-10 Interchange project. Over the past several years, through the city's budget process as well as the goals and objectives process, Council has prioritized this interchange project, and it's incorporated into the city's capital improvement program. The Freeway Corridor Specific Plan, which was adopted in 2008, represents the largest undeveloped area within the city, and that area includes this proposed interchange as an infrastructure element of that plan. In 2017, our mayor at that time, along with city staff, our congressmen, and FHWA officials met in Washington, D.C. to discuss the project, and that visit resulted in support for the phased project, and over the course of several follow-up meetings, the city was able to move forward with the development of the project, beginning with the initial phase of the development of the project study report, otherwise known as the PSR. And our project delivery team, led by our consultant team, led by HDR, has been working with city staff, our partners at SBCTA and Caltrans to complete this PSR process and report, which included an FHWA new connection analysis, since this proposed interchange represents a new connection to the Interstate 10. I'm excited to provide the update that we have completed the PSR effort, and we have received the final approval of the PSR document for this project. And that is a huge milestone that allows the city to move forward with the next phases of this important project. With this report tonight, the recommendation is that City Council receive and file a report regarding the Wildwood Canyon Road Interchange, Interstate 10 Freeway Interchange project update. And here to provide us with a project update and lead us through a presentation that we put together is Mark Hager with our HDR consultant team. So I'll hand it off to Mark, and we'll be available for questions at the conclusion of the presentation.
Thank you, Landon. Good evening, council members. It's my pleasure, as Landon noted, just to kind of step through this and inform you where the project team has gone, working with so many here at the city. But as we noted, we've reached a milestone, which is nice to get to. But just in general terms, the general location of the project location is on I-10, immediately between County Line Road and Live Oak Canyon Road. So there's 2 miles of spacing there, and this interchange is nestled 1 mile in between each of those local interchanges. As Landon noted, we did complete project initiation document, the PSR, on October 13th, 2021, with the signature of the District 8 Director here at Caltrans District 8. We're now moving on to the project approval and environmental document phase, commonly referred to as PA and ED. The phases yet to come, as you can see, are the plan, specs, and estimate, which is a future phase, as well as construction. There were 5 alternatives essentially analyzed. One obviously is the no build, doing nothing, which is really not an option for the city or for the motoring public. Alternative 2 looked at some local circulation elements, which looked at improvements to local intersections and local arterials in lieu of the interchange. That did not fare well in the analysis because the traffic that we show existing and future shows a demand on both Live Oak Interchange and County Line Road Interchange and the interconnected roadways between that exceeded the capacity of those local circulation elements. So alternatives 3A, 3B, and 4 are depicted in the subsequent figures, as well as the local street interchange. And again, this was looked at. It was required on behalf of FHWA to justify the new connection that was approved essentially in the PID phase, project initiation document, with the PSR. So alternative 2 will not be studied further in PAD since it was shown to provide insufficient circulation benefits for the city as well as the I-10 corridor. Alternative 3A is a diamond interchange that connects Wildwood Canyon in a pure transverse crossing over I-10. This is a diamond interchange that provides connectivity with ramps in each travel direction, both eastbound and westbound, and realigns Calamasa Boulevard slightly to the north, bending outward to accommodate those westbound ramps. Alternative 3B is a skewed diamond, essentially a very similar configuration of the roadways, just a slightly skewed bridge crossing across I-10, which gives better connectivity in some cases for Wildwood Canyon, perpetuating to the southwest off the lower edge of that diagram. Alternative 4 was the Diverging Diamond Interchange, which has some enhancements that at the ramp terminals to accommodate more turning movements more efficiently. So this is the third and final alternative that will be carried forward in PAD, all of which that will be studied in further degree to look at environmental impacts, capital costs associated with each, and then all the supporting documents associated with the EIR and project report in the PAD phase that we've kicked off. Some of the benefits of the interchange and alternatives is really providing connectivity of the local and regional network, getting traffic onto the local network or off the local streets onto the regional network that need to get there and commute predominantly in an east-west direction on I-10. It provides relief to the local roads, intersections, and adjacent intersections and interchanges for that matter. By adding a third interchange, we lighten the immediate demand to both County Line Road and Live Oak Interchange, spreading that out between 3 interchange as compared to the existing 2. We also want to emphasize that we accommodate the future development, both on the north side and south side, which is important to the city. And not only does it provide that accommodation of future development, it also provides operational benefits to I-10. Just by adding the interchange, the actual improvements to the travel times on I-10 improve by spreading that traffic out and not having it at 2 distinct points, and adding, in addition, the auxiliary lanes to those concepts that we showed. And the fifth and final point I want to make is it provides local access to and from the freeway and consistent with the freeway corridor specific plan and area being looked at by the city. It improves the ability to have housing and jobs here in Yucaipa, basically taking some of those commutes away from our residents, allowing them to work and live in the same community, avoiding those long trips to adjacent cities or for some adjacent counties, bringing those opportunities closer to home as that development occurs. The next steps for the current PAD phase, Project Approval Environmental Document phase, is a public scoping meeting. That kicks off every EIR specifically, and what that is an opportunity for the community to come out and understand what the environmental clearance is, what environmental clearance is required for a project under an EIR. This gives the team an opportunity to hear from the community of where their concerns are, where the importance lies within the community, and we can take that into consideration as we go into the PAD phase and evaluate those alternatives. We want to use that information to refine the project alternatives. We'll be updating the traffic studies. The environmental studies will physically be done. So the nice thing about that public scoping meeting is the residents surrounding the area will be informed of the environmental studies that are going on, what we need to look at to clear a project environmentally. Those environmental studies will go into and be part of the environmental document, an EIR, as I mentioned. We'll also produce a draft project report and draft environmental document that will then later be circulated for public circulation at the time formal comments are made, and then those comments are responded to and included in the appendices in the environmental document. After that public circulation, the project delivery team, also known as the PDT, which encompasses SBCTA, Caltrans, City of Yucaipa, and our consultant team will select what's referred to as a preferred alternative. That preferred alternative will ultimately be identified as the alternative that would be carried or recommended for carry into the design and construction phase for the project. That selected alternative or selected preferred alternative would be then documented in the final project report, final environmental document, and notice of determination in filing of that EIR. Throughout the process, we'll have public meetings, specifically community meetings. A public meeting will be held at the time of circulation, but again, keeping in mind at the top, we also have the public scoping meeting, which is targeted in March timeframe, so we can inform the community, we can solicit that input on the project and move forward in compliance with the EIR. And then later, when that draft document is circulated, that's the second time where the public can come out and comment on the project, and we can hear from our local residents, businesses, concerns, issues, likes, dislikes, if you will, with the interchange being considered. So the public scoping meeting is the first step of the environmental process. Again, that'll kick off in the the March timeframe. Our goal is to inform the public and community of the project and the process as we go through the EIR. It's an opportunity for us to share the purpose and need and project description, what the intent behind the project is. It also presents the public's, the project alternatives, which does include the no build, doing nothing is always an option, if you will. And then documents really the input from the community that'll be carried forward through the team's consideration as we proceed into the project approval and environmental phase. That concludes my presentation for tonight. If there's any other questions, clarifications, we'll be glad to share those with the council and members of the team.
Are there any questions for Mark with HDR?
Great presentation, thank you.
You're welcome.
I noticed that the three options, they all save the rest stop area.
Yes, they do. That was one of the, I guess, cardinal points, if you will, of the project and the understanding early on when this was considered. One of the aspects that Caltrans felt important was retaining the rest area. For those that don't know, it's a very highly used rest area. It's, I think, the 13th highest used rest area in the state before people head out into the desert, obviously, especially in the summer when it's hot. It's a holdover point where people will wait for the desert to cool down, last kind of check for the vehicle, but all of the alternatives do preserve the rest area in place. One of the things that we did by kind of shoehorning the interchange in around that is it avoids the obligation of the team to study or find another alternative location to place the rest area and move it, which we thought was most beneficial, not spend capital on relocating it, but preserve what's there, since that was a criteria that was outlined by Caltrans just based on the high use of that rest area itself. So all three of the alternatives shown do preserve the existing rest area in place.
And that's with access points? I don't see access points.
It maintains the existing ramp connections. Okay. If you want me to jump back to those, I can do that. At least I think I can. If we want to go back, I'll take either alternative if you want to bring one up.
Oh, no, that's fine. I can see them.
Yep.
That's where that extra extended bridge is.
So the safety roadside rest area comes off right here. So that's the eastbound off-ramp, and the eastbound on-ramp is over here. So we've taken off the exit before the rest area, and it can come up to the ramp terminal, and the driver can make the left or right at that location and proceed on Wildwood Canyon. Similarly, a user of the rest area, when they come back out, they merge in with the ramp. There's an acceleration lane that's provided because we are in the grade going up to County Line Road. That's blended with the ramp off of I-10 and then joined into I-10 a little bit further to the east, but that allows the trucks to accelerate to speed before getting into the grade, but it preserves both the eastbound ramp or both eastbound ramps to and from the rest area, if that was a clarification. It does not commingle or provide local access from Wildwood Canyon to the rest area. It's still retained from the state right away from Interstate 10 eastbound direction only.
Okay. Any other questions,
Hard
comments?
to believe there's enough space behind it with that big drop off of that cliff.
Yeah, and that's one of the concern. The purple lines you see are the grading that's shown in there, so there is some refinement that's put in there with backing, and then there are some additions of some culverts to convey that water in a more efficient way to alleviate the corrosion, the erosion that Caltrans is currently showing at the back of the rest area. And you can see that soil cone that juts out a little bit toward the rest area in that location, and that's one of the areas where there is some sloughing of slopes that will be corrected as part of the project, and it does help preserve the rest area with a little bit of slope shoring and box culverts that'll be put in place to convey that water.
This is a pretty exciting project.
It's a big one.
Any
All
other
right.
questions?
Are you guys okay?
Yes.
You good? Okay. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
For me, or Landon, do you have anything else?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I would add one thing. Part of that conversation that we had, staff and council members or mayor at the time, with FHWA regional director and senior staff, we were 50-50, I guess. They supported the phased interchange approach, which was a little unusual for FHWA. They did not support relocating the rest area out of that location. So that's how we got to Caltrans and local FHWA wanting to keep that rest area in place. We've been working on that, had been working on that for several decades, I guess, almost, but that's where it ended up, so.
Okay,
That's too bad.
yeah. All right, so that is a receive and file, so if there's anything else, we will move on to announcements. Bob, do you have anything?
Well, just the skating rink, we've got 35 days of skating, so just encourage everyone to come out. We spent a bunch of money for that. We want to make sure we recoup as much as we can, so that's all I wanted to say.
That includes you, right?
That includes me, yes. I'm going to give it a whirl.
All right.
I may be in a cast, but I'll do it.
I'm going to challenge Ray to a one-on-one hockey, as long as I don't have to skate backwards. No, and I want to wish everybody, I hope on behalf of the city council, a happy Thanksgiving. Obviously, we'll be closed on Thursday and Friday. So this is the time to begin our holiday season. So everybody have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
All right, so with that, we do have a closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. We've got two items on our closed session this evening. The first is conference with legal counsel regarding pending litigation. It's the National Prescription Opioid Litigation, MDL number 2804 from the Federal District Court in Ohio, Northern District. And the second item is conference with real property negotiator regarding 12494 5th Street. The city's negotiator on that item is Mr. Casey. Negotiating parties, Delbert R. Kerber Jr. and Deborah Cervantes. Under negotiation, our price and terms of payment. We don't expect reportable action on either of those items this evening.
All right, and with that, I will adjourn the city council meeting.